I'm speaking to Pat McGroder, the Terry family attorney. It's the 1 year anniversary of the death of their son, Brian Terry, murdered Border Patrol agent. This all has to do with Fast and Furious, and there's so much going on. Pat, thank you so much for being on NRA News. A busy day. Tell me, you guys just wrapped up a press conference. What was it all about?
Well, the Terry family wanted to issue a statement today on the anniversary of Brian's death. Obviously, they're in seclusion, grieving over the death of their son, and so the Terry family issued a statement setting forth its priorities and its hope for the future, including the prosecution of those responsible for Brian's death, and a call to those who have and continue to have information from governmental sources to provide that information in a transparent, accountable, and responsible way, so that not only the Terry family but the citizens of the United States can understand the events that led up to this tragedy, including but not limited to the issues, facts, and genesis of the Fast and Furious program.
So, obviously, Fast and Furious is a big part of this, but the Terrys are focusing on justice for their son.
The Terrys are seeking full justice for their son in the form of criminal prosecution for all of those involved in the murder of Brian, and potentially civil responsibility, depending on how the facts evolve in terms of continued disclosures, good work by you and other members of the press, and information that is being derived from the congressional inquiries.
And I understand, Pat. We're speaking to Pat McGroder, by the way, the family of Brian Terry. He's the attorney. It's the 1 year anniversary of the death of Brian, and Mr. McGroder just wrapped up a press conference about that and is joining us. Pat, the Terrys have been very careful about what they've been saying, how they've been saying it. So I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but how are they feeling so far? Let's talk about first about how things are happening with the investigation a year later, and then we'll talk about Fast and Furious. How do they feel about the investigation into their son's death?
Well, let me give you a little bit of a long answer in relationship to your short question. You need to go back, as far as the family goes, to that week of tragedy, not only Brian's death, but then finding out about it, dealing with the holidays, things of that nature. And then information trickling in, information generated by the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Phoenix, prosecutorial folks, and that information that they got initially was misleading at best. It didn't provide them a factual context for the death, the guns that were involved, how guns from a gun shop in Phoenix, Arizona, would have found their way to a murder scene. So the information that the Terrys got initially was drips and drabs, and much of it was misleading or inaccurate. As they moved down the time frame, and whistleblowers came forward, ATF whistleblowers came forward, congressional inquiries occurred, and the good work of the press, more and more information has come out. But unfortunately, the Terrys still don't have the final story. They want to ensure that those responsible, immediately responsible for the death of Brian, are prosecuted, and those responsible for the circumstances surrounding his death, including the guns, the Fast and Furious programs, are held accountable and responsible, at least to the extent that truthful information is forthcoming, so one can judge the totality of the circumstances and judge the Fast and Furious program. To date, the Terrys have not gotten that type of information.
And I guess I'm asking you to speculate here. Do you think that has anything to do with some of the political gamesmanship that's happening here in Washington, D.C. over this issue?
Well, that's the sad part, and the Terrys are adamant that Brian Terry's tragic death is not going to be a political football. They're not interested in semantical responses to questions. They're not interested in evasion. What they're interested in is someone coming forward, good, bad, or indifferent, and saying, look, here are the facts as we know them. Here's what occurred. If mistakes were made, take accountability and responsibility for the mistakes, because the last thing that we want to have happen is have Brian death in vain, such that a program like this could be hatched down the road, and that would be the ultimate tragedy.
So moving forward, Pat, speaking to Pat McGroder, he's the Terry family attorney, 1 year anniversary since the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. Mr. McGroder, moving forward, what's the plan? What's the strategy for you and for the family?
Well, now that the prosecution is being handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office in San Diego under the good work of Laura Duffy, and she has coalesced her prosecution team and the FBI and all the other investigatory authorities, the family is very pleased with how that is progressing. They're very pleased with the conduit of information that the U.S. Attorney's Office has provided to the family. And so they have full confidence in Ms. Duffy and her staff's ability to prosecute this case. So the family is anxiously awaiting these murderers to be brought to justice, all of them, whether they be in custody or not in custody. That's step one. Step two will be to continue to evaluate the information that's flowing from the congressional inquiry as a result, and other sources, I should say, and to continue to evaluate whether there's any civil culpability that the Terry family wishes to embark upon.
Well, Pat, please pass along our thoughts and prayers from the folks here at NRA News to the Terry family, and tell them we're just like Representative Issa, we are not going to back down on this one as far as getting the truth, at least from reporting on it. So we're all in on this one. So,
well, thank you very much, and I know I speak for the Terry family, and thanking all Americans for their continued support of the Terry program and not allowing this tragedy of this American hero to go without responsibility, and we appreciate your support and all Americans who feel the same way.